As many of you know, the industry lost sound talent groups Dave Shapiro, Kendall Fortner, and Anne Mahuke, as well as the former drummer for Devil Wears Prada, Daniel Williams, and Dave's friends Dominic Dania and photographer Selena Kenyon on Thursday, May 22nd. In remembrance of the friends that we lost, we're joined today by Paladin Steve Martin, Psycho Steve Presents Steve Chilton, and Force Media Management's Randy Nichols.
Randy Nichols.
First time I met Dave Shapiro was in 2001. He was passing through a friend of mine's record company's office that I happened to be in at the same time and started talking to him. And he was telling me about this band that he played drums in, Count the Stars. They're looking for a record deal. And he was telling me about how, each town they've got to when they went on tour, they would go to the local shopping mall. They would look for kids who looked like they would be coming to their show or would like their band that didn't know about them, go up and talk to the kids, get their phone numbers, befriend them, and invite them to the show that night. And then he told me the next time they come to town, they always call that list of phone numbers and reach out to all these people to invite them back. And, two things came to mind when I heard that. One, that's some of the things that people are doing now with, SMS and all these, community apps to reach out to people. But 20 plus years ago, he was doing this. The most important thing, though, I remember talking to him that day was, this kid was just hustling so hard for his band to break. And I literally looked him right in the face and said, I don't know if your band's going to make it or not, but you're going to be in this business for a really long time. And, it was just wild. I couldn't have been more right. But at the time, it was just, talking to a kid who wanted it. And I knew he had that special thing that only so many people have in this business, and he had it, and he kept that same humbleness and same guy who he was that first time I met him when he just wanted to break till the last time I ran into him at a festival, like the same energy and vibe and excitement. So it's just, not many people carry that for that long.
Stephen Chilton.
One of the things I think with Dave was I don't think there's many agents who cover more of their artist shows than Dave did. He was always out at shows, and not just the major markets, not just the major festivals, but was out at the small festivals, was in the shows in Tucson or Nebraska, always coming and covering his bands. And one of the things that made him a really great agent is he really knew what his artists were doing and where they were. And then got to really know him, work with him even better was kind of during, because he was one of the founders of Nito. And so all during COVID, my role in Neva and his role in Nito had a lot of overlap. And that was actually kind of the most fun working with him, where it wasn't about the shows or negotiating or, any of that. It was just working together in a different way. And that was really positive as well. I also knew Kendall really well. I got to know Kendall coming out of COVID. One of her good friends was at ASU, and she, in that 21, 22 sort of coming out of COVID, she used to come out to Phoenix a lot, and she was actually would just come work out of our office, because there's that whole period most people weren't back to work. I don't think Sound Talent was at an office yet. She had just got being back, and so she just spent a lot of time in Arizona, coincidentally, and got to know Kendall really well during that. And she was just so inquisitive, so fun to be around. Was coming to a lot of just coming to shows a lot when that first get back at it, and got to really know her then. And I think she was just so promising. Like, she was going to be a great agent, super inquisitive, huge music fan, great to be around, and was super fun to work with. And we just kind of started, it was neat. We were just starting to actually work with her on projects she was bringing up, or where she was taking the lead on things with Dave. And so that was fun in the last year or so to really be working with her as the agent and not just the assistant. And I also remember one of the first times I saw Dave after COVID, I wanted to make a point of saying how much I liked Kendall and thought she was great. And he kind of gave me this big smile and was just sort of yeah, I know she's great. And it was kind of got this very proud father sort of reaction from Dave. I think she had a great ear for music and was just really passionate, great person.
Steve Martin.
I met Dave around 2003, 2004. Corey Christopher introduced Dave to Andy Summers and Bruce Solar. We were at the agency group at that time, building the agency group, and he was in a genre of music I had no idea about. Andy and Bruce brought him in. I had spoke to Dave, and immediately when I met him, I could tell he was an entrepreneur, which was key in the mindset for us at that time. He was incredibly ambitious, super smart, one of those smartest people I ever knew, and who was placing himself in a position to essentially explore a genre that he put on his back and made around the world of newish metal punk bands. When we met him, he already had a label. He was developing a merch company, wanted to do a festival, and he took that start to become one of the most respected agents at the agency group, and then UTA for a little while, and then Sound Talent. What he and Tim and Matt have built is a remarkable thing and not easy to do. But Dave had all the qualities that one looks for in an associate. I always say we can teach you the agency business. It's not that hard. Some very dumb people are successful, but I can't teach ambition, empathy, vision. And that's what Dave brought to us in the office. He was an unfailing bright light. He always had a smile on his face and always had great plans that he fulfilled. And people can have plans and not execute them. And he did. I also just want to acknowledge the people that were his associates that were on the plane with him. Kendall and Emma, Selena, Daniel, and Dominic. I feel for those people also. I think STG will carry on, with Dave as a spirit and guiding light there. Tim and Matt have an incredible team, a lot of former associates and still friends that we used to work with at the agency group. And it just came as a shock. You don't expect people like Dave to have such a young ending. We'll miss him greatly. On a personal level, I'll miss him. The business will miss him. Because they don't make many like him. They just don't. So here's to Dave. And may his spirit go on, and I'm sure it will.
On a personal note, Dave was a friend for the better part of 2 decades. I had seen him just recently. He's always smiling, and everyone adored him. It's rare in this industry to have anyone that was well liked by just absolutely everyone. Well, I can't speak on the rest of the friends that were lost as I didn't know them. I can personally say that Dave is a treasure and the industry is worse off without him, and he will be missed.
We had Dave on episode 82 of the podcast about 7 years ago. I'll put the link in the description for those who want to give it a listen.
Serving up opinions on a silver platter, it's a grind. The information getting, bringing your got so hot you'll be sweating. These two dudes with attitudes will put you in the mood for a plate full of brain food. So don't delay, my daughter, my son. Visit the buffet called Promoter 101.
Welcome to Promoter 101. As always, my partner in crime, Mr. W. Luke Pierce, is joining us today.
Dan, good to be back here. I'm going to be joined today in the podcast by the newly minted Polestar Promoter of the Year winner from AEG Presents, We've got the head of global touring, Rich Schaefer, returning on this guest. Rich was on this podcast, Dan, about 5 years ago on episode 163, but a lot has happened since then. And Rich is back today for chapter 2.
Excited to talk to Rich, particularly to get into all of the things he's done to go from manager to promoter, and not just any promoter, one of the best promoters in the business at that point. So says his peers and Polestar Magazine. Thrilled to have my friend Rich Schaefer joining us this week.
Plus, we've got news of the week and a special war story from ATG Entertainment's Kevin Couch.
Promoter 101 starts right now.
They don't mind coming to work, but that 8-hour wait to go home is a bitch. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
There's been over 225 past episodes of the Promoter 101 podcast, and they're all available for your education and enjoyment anytime you want at promoter101.com.
Feel free to hit us up with your ideas and questions at steiny@promoter101.net.
Of course, we're all over the internet. Come join the conversation. On X, this show is at Promoter 101. I'm at W. Luke Pierce. Dan is at The Jew. Over on Instagram, the show is at Steiny Promoter 101. Dan is at Dan Presents, and I'm at W. Luke Pierce.
Steiny and Luke would like to remind you that a clean desk is a sign of a cluttered desk drawer. Promoter 101.
Luke, shall we talk about the industry news?
Dan, I think we should. Welcome back, everybody, from a holiday weekend. Let's talk about the big, shiny elephant in the room, award shows. On Sunday, we watched the 2025 American Music Awards, which wrapped up at the Fontainebleau in Las Vegas, making headlines with Billie Eilish sweeping with 7 awards, Janet Jackson landing an Icon Award, and a stage packed with performances from Gwen Stefani, Blake Shelton, Lainey Wilson, the usual industry victory lap. But I got a real question here, Dan. Does anyone outside the industry really care? I mean, these things used to be huge cultural anchors. The Grammy would be a stage you could launch a career. The AMAs were like this fan-voted pulse of pop music. And the MTV VMAs gave us those moments that broke the internet before we even had an internet. But today, who knows? You want that Billie Eilish content, you go to TikTok. If you want to hear Maren Morris's new album, you just go stream it on release day and follow the behind-the-scenes stuff she posts online. And you want to be connected to those artists? You're not waiting for like a 2-minute ABC clip from a red carpet. You're in their world every day. Are the AMAs converting fans to spend more? Do they boost ticket sales? Do they boost streaming numbers, merch, VIP, whatever? Data really suggests it doesn't. But I think what they do well is reinforce legacy brands. Billie's already big. This is another look to make her look bigger. Janice's legacy, that's already cemented. The show itself, mostly valuable for network ratings, advertising slots, and industry bragging rights. I don't think this is a hot take, Dan, but there are just too many industry awards. We've got the Grammys, the AMAs, the Billboard Awards, the BET Awards, the CMAs, the ACMs, iHeartRadio Awards, the VMAs, the Latin Grammys, the Brits, the Junos. I'm sure I forgot 4 or 5 of them already. At some point, they stop being special and they just start being calendar clutter. The AMAs really matter anymore, Dan? Do any of these award shows really matter, for that matter?
The Grammys do. The Grammys absolutely do.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, Oscars, Grammys, these things matter. Then you start getting into some of these other specialty stuff. AMAs came and went. The only thing you can really say about that is, man, anytime Benson Boone takes stage, it's going to be exciting, and goddamn, you're going to want to watch that. And thank God for TikTok, because I didn't have to sit through that fucking show last night, but I did get to see Benson Boone do his flips. And that kid is a fucking star. He's here to stay. And I hope he's still doing that stuff when he's Mick Jagger's age, because, man, this kid is exciting. The rest of the show, they gave away, 6 awards last night? What's the fucking point?
Truly. Country music, I think, is guilty by far and away of having the most award shows. I feel like there's so many award shows out there, but every streaming platform competing for content has bid on these things. Does it mean much anymore to fans? I don't think so. Yeah, everyone tunes in for the Grammys. Everyone tunes in for the CMAs. I'm not knocking those things by any means. Well, they're huge awards in their respective genres, but you start trickling down into AMAs, and NBC's got People's Choice sort of things going on right now. It's laughable how many times we have to pat ourselves in the back.
It really comes down to, it's a great line to help move anything. It's a talking point. Does it matter? Unless you're one of the bigger awards, people really don't care that much. No, there are too many. It's gotten watered down. But it's still cool when you win.
It is cool when you win, and TV is great, and media is great, and it certainly, helps raise those profiles. But is it connecting in a commercial way? Is it driving what's on the charts the next day? No, it's not.
But it is time to start talking about when we're going to do the Promoter 101 Steiny Awards, because I think it's far time we get in the game here.
Let's call up Dick Clark right now. Let's get him on the line. Moving on, Dan. We're going to get some real big J journalism here, Dan, because I'm talking about a source that everyone respects, which is, of course, the New York Post. There's this story that's been buzzing. I first read in the Post last week. There was reports that have emerged suggesting that Taylor Swift may have the opportunity to repurchase the master recordings of her first 6 albums. What's particularly intriguing about the Post report is that Scooter Braun, who's, of course, at the center of a long-standing feud, is reportedly encouraging the current holder of those rights to sell to Taylor. For those of you who didn't follow along, in 2019, Scooter purchased Big Machine Records, which included the masters of Taylor's early works. Swift had some public outrage about her discontent, stating that she wasn't given a fair shot to buy her own music back. In response, over the past couple of years, she's been embarking on this mission to re-record all of her early albums, releasing them as Taylor's version, which have been both commercially and critically successful. And now Shamrock Capital, the private equity group who currently owns those masters, is reportedly open to selling them back to Swift with Braun's encouragement. The estimated price tag, somewhere between $600 million and $1 billion. $1 billion, Dan. Raised a few questions here for me. Why now? Swift's been re-recording her albums. It's been really effective. That's certainly had to devalue the original masters and shifted the fan support she's been driving all her fans to new Taylor's versions. What's Scooter's motivation in all this? Is this some sort of genuine attempt at reconciliation or some strategic business move to capitalize on the current value of the masters? Does Taylor go ahead with this? Owning the original masters gives her complete control over early work, but that's a significant price tag. I mean, Scooter bought Big Machine for $300 million. They sold the masters, just Taylor's masters, to Shamrock for like $400 million. He got to keep Florida Georgia Line and Thomas Rhett in the meantime for all that and pocket $100 million. And now it's going up from $600 million to $1 billion. I mean, what does she really stand to gain from that? It's an interesting story here, and I think it's just highlighting what's going on in the rights marketplace. I mean, this speaks to the kind of hype that's still in this space, even in the post-hypnosis, post-Merck world. And I spoke to a fund manager last week who told me that it's not quite like all-time highs, but things are definitely picking up, even in 7% interest rate environments right now, Dan. What do you think of all this?
It's so interesting because if you look at things like the Beach Boys, where Brian Wilson talked about it's like selling his children. They want to own their songs because they're their personal songs. They love them. She wants to control her poetry. So yeah, I think she'll want to buy them. She'll want to control them, regardless of how well the Taylor's version has worked out for her. That's something I think she personally is going to want, and they'll probably find a deal. She's not going to want to seem too excited because she's not going to want to pay the $1 billion, but they'll probably find a fair number for that somewhere down the line, and I imagine it'll be a slow, painful process. My guess is Scooter wants to do the sale because he assumed at some point all these Taylor Swifties would stop hating him and forget about it. But I think they've continued to harass him online and be a pain in the ass. And I think he's ready to move on and not be enemy number one to the Swifties. That would be my guess because this backfired on him in a major way. For someone that's got a great persona, this one he lost on.
He certainly lost on it, but in the end, he won. I mean, he bought it, rolled it in at Ithaca, sold it to Hybe, IPO'd on Hybe. I mean, he's made money every step of the way on this thing. And, is he a guy that looks forward to the future? Is he really, concerned with reconciling his relationship with Taylor at this point? Is that important to him in his business? I mean, maybe. She's a superstar and carries a ton of clout for this, but I don't get the sense this is a reconciliation thing. And again, we're talking about the New York Post, right? Like, I loved being able to
not the paper of record.
It's not the paper of record here. I mean, to be sure, I love reading the New York Post. It's a phenomenal piece of entertainment on the Daily.
But it's not like Danny Kincannon's writing for him, right? I mean, they're not on that level.
Seriously. The Dallas Morning News.
A little bit of West Wing Easter eggs for our Sorkin fans out there.
Yeah. But anyways, it's a story we'll have to watch. And I think just, again, so many people, I think this space cooled down as interest rates went up and Merck discipline the market by selling for pennies on the dollar. But I think this just highlights the fact that there's way more activity in this space that's going on, particularly at a high level than people are seeing on the front end of things. So whatever you're reading about, interest rates in the stock market right now, that asset class is still booming. Lastly, in a bit of personal news, I have to give a giant shout out to David Levine and Andy Oliphant and the crew who attended the 14th annual Desert Charity Classic in Palm Springs last weekend. The annual Ryder Cup style event had some legends like Doc McGee, Arnie Granite, and Tom Wally face off against the likes of Kevin Neal of WME, Mark Williamson of Concord Records. The team captains were Rand Levy and North Star's Kevin Daly. And I was lucky enough to play for the winning captain, Mr. Rand Levy, where we led a charge in the final day of singles to retain the Desert Charity Cup. The event raised more than $150,000 for Sweet Relief, earmarked for Fire Aid LA. I also had a hole-in-one, Dan, on the 12th hole of the Nichols course at the PGA West, my second career hole-in-one.
You had a hole-in-one?
Yes.
Amazing. I've done it once, but I think it's a different level when you do it and there's not like a windmill on the miniature golf course between you and the hole, right? So this is a whole different level.
It felt good, to be honest. And this is my second career hole-in-one. I had one in a previous match with actually Mike Luganville from Straight No Chaser, also in a match play event. It felt really good. And I got a pair of shoes from Massimo and G4, so that was really nice.
A hole-in-one.
I did have quite the bar tab, made a nice contribution to Sweet Relief in honor of that, and then had a nice tab I had to pick up at dinner for it. So it was a great weekend in the desert. Just want to give a shout out to David and Andy and to Sweet Relief, doing a lot of great work out there in LA, and the money that was raised that weekend, all going to a great cause.
Love it. Congratulations on your hole-in-one and for raising some money for charity for Sweet Relief.
They intend to live forever. So far, so good. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
It wouldn't be Promoter 101 without some tweets of the month. So let's see what came out of Dan's brain this month. Start here, Dan. We all get in our heads with all this extra distraction. That's when you need to tune out all that noise and just book some badass shows.
Fuck the drama. Let's just own this thing.
How about this one, Dan? See, now that we came off a holiday weekend, you said holiday weekends are a special kind of magic, especially when it signals the start of summer.
I hope everybody just had a relaxing holiday weekend.
GOAT is way overused. It really needs to be reserved for Michael Jordan, game changers, and the next level, never seen before them, literally. Not just a star, but the best of all the stars, as in the greatest of all time. Just saying.
Greatest of all time does seem a little overused these days, Luke. I mean, who do you put in that world when you hear the greatest of all time? Who is your GOAT?
Federer? Brady? Probably Federer.
Who would you say is the GOAT for comedy?
Ooh. Dead or alive right now? We playing that game?
If we're going to say alive, I'm going with Chappelle if you're going alive. But I think there's a lot of people you could put in that class. But I think he's probably the best live comic out there at the moment.
Chappelle's hard to argue living. I'd throw Pryor up there, throw Carlin up there for dead. Those were pretty GOAT-like figures in comedy. That'll do it for Tweets of the Week. Make sure you follow Dan for all the gems dropping out of his brain. He's at The Jew on Twitter.
Now, their opinions may have changed, but not the fact that they're always right. Huh? Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
On to our featured interview this month. We are joined today by AEG Presents Global Touring President, Mr. Rich Schaefer.
Fresh off his win of the Polestar Promoter of the Year Bill Graham Award, Rich Schaefer from AEG Global Touring is joining us. Welcome back to Promoter 101, Rich.
Thank you, and welcome back, Promoter 101.
Very excited to have you back on the podcast. It's been a long time since we last spoke on the record, so to speak. Lots happened.
It's our fake Promoter 101 followed by the real Promoter 101 2018.
Yeah, I guess we should clarify that. So we did your first interview. You were still a manager at Loyalty. Before it aired, you'd switched jobs about 3 weeks later, and you called and said, "Can I have a mulligan?"
I said, "Yeah, you can't air it." I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't cancel it. It would be too obvious,
All good. I was like, let's do it. So I got a second bite at the apple after you got a couple months in the chair of switching jobs. So let's talk about that real quick. You went from being a manager and had really good success at that, gave up your roster and moved over to becoming a promoter, something you didn't have a ton of experience with. So giving up a proven track record as a manager and a roster and switching sides, that had to be a scary thing. I mean, that's a serious risk.
Was a serious risk. I was at a turning point in my life. I was turning 40. I had never really worked at a company that had more than 20 people in it. As I say to managers all the time, it's the hardest job in the business. And I just, after 18 years of it, had kind of been burnt out. I do actually still manage or co-manage Chromeo with Adam Harrison at Full Stop. It's something that I just full time felt like I had lost the passion for. When Gary Gersh, my old boss, approached me about joining AEG, I felt excited about it. I was, as a manager, I was always very focused on live. I toured with our acts. I handle our budgeting, all our promoters. I worked with all our promoters, worked with our agents really closely. It felt like a natural fit. I knew a lot of the people at AEG. Of course, I knew the people at other companies too, but AEG felt a bit more like it would be a better home for me. And I wasn't pursuing a change. It kind of came to me with an opportunity that Gary had created, and it was exciting to me. And I think for the first time, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll try this corporate life, as they say.
Gary made the jump, so obviously he knew that knowing you, he knew you could do it too. Different world, different time. How much time are you spending on the road? Because you're out there with your acts quite a bit, and I think I see you more often than not in your hometown.
Yeah, I think I calculated it last year. I think it was like 200 nights, either at home or on the road. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other kind of, it was somewhere in that ballpark. Last year was super intense. I mean, it was my first full year running global touring. And so I was trying to be everywhere to everyone all the time. This year, certainly off to the not quite the pace that I was at, but as I say that after being away for 3 weeks in the desert for Coachella and Stagecoach. But yeah, I'm on the road quite a bit. I mean, I think, as a manager, I was on the road a lot. And I've sort of brought that mentality to touring at AEG. Is just like you have to show up, and you have to be there present to make, where that's where the decisions are made. That's where deals are made. And I feel it's important for our team to be present.
You're talking about 4 or 5 nights a week you're on the road on average.
Yeah, but it's not every, there'll be a couple of weeks where I'm home, and there'll be a couple of weeks when I'm away. I love traveling. I love seeing the world. My wife will join me when she can, and I love being around our team and our artists.
That's cool that she's able to go out on the road with you. I think I bumped into you guys at Nashville at Soho House not too long ago together.
Yeah, she until recently was a manager also. She was working at Loyalty Management, that Rich and I started, and she joined early on, and she stayed there after I left. But I think recently she left and is kind of trying to figure out her next move. But she understands the life, and she loves to travel as much as I do, so it works out well.
Love that. Quickly note that your podcast was episode 163 of Promoter 101, where we talk about your history in the business. And I don't want to rehash all that, but the episode's still up. If you want to go back and listen to that so you understand Rich's background and jump ahead and not repeat. So, Polestar Promoter of the Year, Bill Graham, that's
pretty great.
Real award. That's awesome. And I'd like to say for the record, we booked you before your fee went up.
Yeah, shitty agent. No, I'd never been nominated. I think you probably know this from years ago when I was a manager. We used to run a Polestar Awards pool. Sam Hansonia and we would bet on who would win. And, I think one year we had like 50, 70 people enter. It was funny. I'd never in a million years would have bet on myself to win a Bill Graham Award for having only been a promoter for 6 years, 7 years. But it speaks to, as I said, the team that I'm surrounded by and the people I work with, because it's people get credit for things. It's like all those lists, like the lists, identify certain people, but there's so many people that are doing the work on a day-to-day basis or on the road every night. And, I was very grateful for the award, but I truly believe that it's an AEG award and not a Rich Schaefer award.
Well, the guys that have won that award before are promoters, guys like Don Sullivan and Louis Messina.
And my guy, Greg Perloff, who I sat next to the year he won the award in LA. And I think it was at the Wiltern. And, I've learned a lot from Greg over the years. I talked to him for being, competitors. We speak probably, I don't know, I use competitors in quotes because I don't book regionally. But, I speak to Greg pretty regularly, maybe every other week at this point.
Just one of those guys that, just iconic. Like literally the award is named after Bill Graham, and clearly the guy that was handed the keys when Bill was no longer there. So
I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, and I've, have read Bill's autobiography several times, and in awe of, what he did as a promoter. And I hear the stories from Greg and Sherry and, everyone else about him, and, just what I've read about the Dead and his involvement in that. So it's extra special for me. And the fact that Bob Weir was in the audience, even better,
Yeah, that's kind of incredible. So you've gone from manager to promoter. Had to be a crazy jump. really, when you're a promoter, you're focused on US, Europe, Canada. But now Gary has moved on and you've stepped into that role. You're doing a global touring game now. How has that changed how you look at the world? Because routing from Kansas into Chicago is not the same thing when you're thinking about what country you're going to play next, what works with Brazil into London.
It's, what it does is it creates more sort of, it begs for more communication. It creates more calls with our teams. We did a big meeting after Coachella weekend one with all of our global partners in one room, which is, every year has gotten bigger and bigger. This year we added a partner in Germany, with Skumek. We opened an office in Norway, so it's getting bigger and bigger. But for us and for me and for the team, like, it's just all learning process, right? Of like, how do we know where to play? When do we play? And, give our buyers and our promoters and our marketing team enough local knowledge that they can get their jobs done, in conjunction with the partners we have there. But it's all it does is add work and make your days longer. I think tonight I have a call with Asia at 10 o'clock. It's like, it's just, that's what we do. And the business has become global. We can tour North America all day long, but you guys see it too. It's, the more you keep coming back, the harder it becomes to sustain the business, short of the top X% of artists. But so for us to create some separation from touring in the States all the time and being able to go to Asia, South America, Europe, Australia, of course, like, it's super helpful because it just fills the calendar and creates demand around the world.
It seems like back in the 80s, Bowie was trying to go places no one had ever gone before. And Coldplay and Ed Sheeran are trying to do that again, opening up these new markets, playing places in India and Asia that we've never seen before, making it a much bigger map when it comes to touring. Because a world tour used to be you played Toronto, Vancouver, the States, maybe Mexico City, then you ran around the big cities in Europe. And
big day.
it wasn't a true global tour as much as it was 50 markets and 6 outside the US.
Well, it was also pretty festival driven too. And I think now it's become more hard ticket driven, and there's more venues opening up all over the world every day, from, 3,000 seaters to arenas to stadiums. AEG and formerly ASM, have been aggressive in opening venues around the world. Obviously, we keep hearing about, now OVG opening a lot of venues all over the world. It's like I said, the business has become too global to just focus on North America and, and London. You know what I mean? Like, it's Simon Jones just did Ed Sheeran's show in Bhutan. It was the first show ever in Bhutan. So you're right. I mean, people are trying to break barriers and come up with things that haven't been done, because that's fun about it. I mean, that's what's fun about what we do is kind of breaking through ceilings and doing things that people say you can't do.
The logistic nightmare of being the first show in to a new country, getting the production in, building it, and trying to pull off the artist's vision that you would be able to do at Citi Field in the same manner. So the artist is bringing his vision to this new market, because they don't want to just go to the new market. They want to do it the same way they do everything else at that scale that they've built. The logistical nightmare that you guys are setting yourself up for is a challenge and a half.
It keeps us young, Dan.
Got, like, the first one through, right, always gets bloody.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing it, different than Bhutan, but even at, Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan, where we have Zach Bryan playing in September. It's the first ever show at the Big House. And, it's taken 6 months of basically speaking every day to the university and to different people about how to make it happen. And it was fun. It was like we were breaking.
It'll become the biggest show ever, right? Like in America.
The US. Yeah, in the US.
It just beats George Strait's brand new set record.
Just beats it.
6 months ago.
Yeah, Louis and Dugan are already planning on how to beat it. So we'll see what happens. It's a little healthy competition internally. That show caught a lot of people off guard because, for years, everyone had said, can't do shows in Michigan. And, the reason is, I don't know if you've been there or you've seen it, but like, there's one tunnel, and that tunnel gets you to the field. It gets the people to the field. But it's like, well, how do you load a stage in and all that? And we sent our team. John Baden went up there, brought the crane company, brought everybody, and basically said, yeah, we can do it. It's just, again, it speaks to the team that is around us, that we have the time and the ability to do it and spend time to make things like that happen.
It's an incredible thing, but it's also an interesting thing that you're playing in a new world. Stadium shows didn't sell out when we were growing up, unless you were in LA or New York or Chicago or Miami or Paris or London. It didn't happen. Like, shows played stadiums, but they didn't sell out. Like, the fact that acts are rolling 3, 6 nights in these stadiums and you can share steel with yourself is a whole new game.
That's part of the challenge now too, right? How do how you got to find stage shares? Everyone saves money, everyone cuts all the costs down. It actually allows artists who may be on on the fence of playing stadiums to play stadiums because the expenses get cut down so much. But there's so much traffic and there's a lot of people playing stadiums. It used to be, playing an arena was the goal. Now it's just all stadiums.
So you guys are playing this global game now, and you're doing a great job. Like, you guys are landing a lot of really cool tours. Not just any particular genre, but it seems to be all over the map. Like, for a long time, there was like AEG meant classic rock. It was a lot of Rolling Stones, and it was a lot of, what concerts Wes was bringing to the table with the Elton Johns and the Paul McCartneys and really great big stuff. But it all went a little bit older and a little bit country, and now you guys are doing hip hop. Like, Tyler's you guys' tour, and it's massive, and you guys are seeing success all over the place.
Yeah, I think I can speak for myself. Like when I joined Global Touring, I really sort of looked at what areas were being underserved and, where I felt there was opportunity. My first tour, real big tour at AEG was Hugh Jackman's arena tour, which in 2019 that no one really thought it was going to do anything. Including some people internally that were like, you guys are crazy. And, obviously we ended up doing 602s and 3 Gardens and, multiples in a bunch of places. And so we've taken some risks on things like that. Adam Weiser and I really felt like there was a hole in Nashville, there was stuff was being done a certain way for so long. And there was a new kind of generation of agents and managers that were maybe looking for a different perspective. Adam and I are obviously not Nashville born and bred, although Adam now lives there and is killing it. We immediately signed, he signed Luke Combs and we signed Casey Musgraves and, Dan and Shay and just the next generation of what we believe to be the national headliners. And that's translated into Kelsey Ballerini and obviously Zach Bryan and Kane Brown was one of our earliest signings. But Luke and Kane and, Dan and Shay were sort of our first big Nashville signings, but we just, have generated so much from that buy-in from Cappy and from Jason Owen and from Martha Earls and their respective agents that have been able to really show that there's a different way to do things. And that translated to K-pop, where Susan Rosenbluth had laid a massive foundation in her time at AEG and was one of the first people to do K-pop. And now it's, Michael Harrison and Kelly Slabowski and Tara Klee and our team that are just out there and have already made 2 or 3 trips to Korea this year and just have been able to find acts and develop these acts. Developing could be playing one show, then all of a sudden in arenas, but it's been a process. Paul Tollett and Coachella have been super supportive of K-pop and have helped really launch it on a global level with, especially with the stream. But we've just looked for different areas. I think Kareem Leon, certainly an example of a Latin artist that kind of no one was really paying attention to, but it was selling out arenas. And, we met him through his manager and we've been in business now a few years with him. So we still do classic rock stuff. We've done some stuff with Journey. We've done some stuff with Heart. We've done Nick Cave. We got Paul Simon out. We got Dylan out. It's like we still are touching everything, but we're really trying to do like the best in every quote unquote genre. I think genre has gone away for the most part. We just want to work with the best artists, and we want to work with artists that we're going to work with for 20 years. I always joke with Louis, or Louis always jokes with me that when we started this, that we were just in the rental business, and he was in the long-term business. And I agree. I mean, some of the stuff we were doing in the early days were rentals, but we want to work with artists that, we're going to be in business with for 20 years, 25, 30 years. That's the dream, I think, of any promoter, especially, and Louis, done it better than anybody.
You were talking about Journey a minute ago, and I think there was a new trend in stadium shows that like the mini festival almost, where Journey, Def Leppard, Steve Miller, you guys packaged together, more bang for the buck for the fans. And obviously the overlapping synergy in that Venn diagram of fans for that just really plays well. Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison for, Live Nation a couple of years ago, same kind of thing. Green Day, Fall Out Boy, Weezer, same thing, right? You're hitting those fans and you're going bigger and essentially making 3 amphitheater shows into one big stadium show.
It's all. I mean, look at our Zach shows this year. In Michigan, it's Zach, John Mayer, and a couple other supports. In Notre Dame, it's Zach and Shane Gillis. San Francisco at Golden Gate Park at Zach and Kings of Leon, MetLife Stadium at Zach and Kings of Leon. We did 3. Luke Combs, he does stadiums. He doesn't need to pay anybody anything to support. The guy could sell every ticket, but he wants to create these 3 or 4 act bills that are provide value to the fans. Casey Musgraves, even in arenas, had Father John Misty and Lord Huron out, and with Nickel Creek. I mean, that's like she would go on stage every night and say it was like her own festival. And I think those are the tours that are doing great when you see real value paid for support, and it gives fans a reason to spend their money.
Well, I think it goes back to the early George Strait days with Louis, where they build those country stadium shows that were the original Ozfest of country. And then I think Ozfest was born out of that, actually.
Yeah.
One big headliner builds this massive tour that these other acts would never get in front of all those people otherwise. But these new generations and continue to build on that. And it's been a really good thing for everyone. Great.
Yeah, I think Luke Combs has really done that too. Luke has been very diverse with his support. I mean, hell,
Kenny Chesney's done that in the stadiums for years too. It's like very supportive and a great way to build the market, but show fans value.
I agree. I mean, especially as the economy goes wherever the economy goes, it's like the shows that we're seeing that are priced right and do have real support are the ones that are succeeding.
So we talked a lot about Live Nation and AEG, but it seems like there are more players in the game now playing at level than there ever have been. Mammoth seems like they're stepping up. They keep announcing interesting tours. It seems like TEG's like putting their foot into America. It seems like Outback has definitely been stepping up, particularly with the comedy stuff, which they're hitting hard on. But it seems like it's not just 2 offers anymore. It seems like there are offers coming in from other places that realistically could pull off a tour.
Yep.
And that wasn't always the case, that you might get the offer, but it's like a syndication thing. It's like they're laying it off on these indies and will it happen there? And this has to happen for that to work, but then it could come together. But now it seems like there are some networks that have actually formed and there are real tour offers coming from other places. It seems like you're seeing some growth there, that there are competition in that level.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think people are realizing that touring is the future. More acts want to do just, sell their dates to one promoter. We deal with one marketing team, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think it's because, we've done a great job. People, Live Nation's done a great job with some of their acts. And I think people see that there's real, it's a real business. So I think for us, we never look at it and say, okay, it's just about the money. It's obviously about the money, but I think for us, we sell a better job, I guess. We sell harder work and more, more attention to our acts. And so, other companies that come in may not have the data we have, may not have the people, but they certainly don't have the people we have. And so I think those are a lot of that stuff is what makes up the difference, just the extra value that we're bringing to a tour rather than just here's the money.
Okay. You find an act that you want to develop. They're not at the stadium level. Maybe they're in the ballrooms. What gets you excited about an act? What makes you go, I could see myself spending the next 30 years running around the world with these guys?
A great question. For me, I think it's just about it's about the live show, how the crowd reacts, how it all comes together when you see it. I think also knowing about, what's coming, what the team is like, who the manager is, who the agent is. Do you believe in that team? I think all that is really valuable. But a lot of it's just you just have that feeling, and I had that same feeling when I was a manager, and I would sign acts, and it's like, do you believe that you can help the band, and do you believe that you can help the artists grow? And that's it's just your gut sometimes. I was talking about this at Stagecoach this weekend with a manager who I said, data will show you all day long that this band could do what they did, but when you see it live, you know for sure that they could do it. And so I think there's a reliance on data in the music business that I understand is important, but I think there's also still the gut element that we all used to have when we got into it, and we're here for the passion. And so I always say to our team, is if it's been a common refrain, like in management and here, it's like, if you're willing to stand on the table and yell and basically bet your job on it, then you gotta have that passion, or else, what are we doing it for?
Well, and you're kind of talking about that, right? Like you going over and checking out a K-pop act and bringing them back over. Like most of these acts aren't starting in ballrooms. Some of them are just stadiums. Some of them are arenas. Very few are theaters. Like those are big risks right off the bat.
Well, it's all, the interesting thing is it's the risk has gotten bigger, as all these other promoters have come in. all this other stuff's come into play, like the risk is just getting larger and larger. So we're taking bigger bets on these things. So you really have to believe, you really have to be passionate, or else like it's just not worth taking the bet.
And it still comes down at the end of the day to data with music, or is it about the music first?
Oh, I think it's
what's
about
the thing
it's
that
always
gets your
about
attention?
it's about the artist, it's about the music, it's the data. Data's data, and it's part of the decision, but it's got to be about the music.
How much of it is about the team? You said the agent and the manager. Will you walk away from an act if you see the act is ripe for the pickings, but the team just doesn't get a global scale and you just don't think you're going to be able to coach them up?
I would say that we have, yeah. If we don't think there's going to be, look, again, you're investing a ton of money in this stuff, and if you're not going to get buy-in and you're just going to be treated like a bank, it's not going to work. It's my job to protect our touring business. We all work for somebody. I have bosses that are looking at our bottom line, and it's like I'd rather not lose money than make money sometimes.
And you mentioned that last year was your first year on the road on this job. Now you've been in it for a year and you've settled in a little bit. What's changed this year now that you've gotten that comfortability of understanding that what this role is as you stepped into it?
I think a lot of it is is trust within the team, but of me with them, and them with me, and our clients. And I think that there's less need for me to be everywhere. I still am everywhere, or try to be, but I have to find a work-life balance a bit more. I've certainly learned a bit about that in the past year, or the lack thereof in the last year. But so I just have to, prioritize things differently. But I think the fact that I feel better about where our team is today than I did a year and change ago lets me sleep at night.
What is that work-life balance when you're not working? And obviously you're married and you've got your wife, but what is the thing that you do that you enjoy to unwind, to get away from the rat race of the business?
Drink wine and watch basketball.
It's a good time of the year for both.
Yes, it is. No, I mean, I'm a big Brooklyn Nets fan. I have season tickets, and when I go to those games, I try to keep it just to my friends that I bring with me, and try to kind of escape for a few hours, and just really kind of, I really enjoy that. I live 10-minute walk from Barclays Center, so it's super easy for me, and I just for me it's an escape from the day.
So I've noticed you speaking at conferences a whole lot more than you used to. I'm guessing that's kind of part of the gig, is you're representing a global company and it's important. Did you ever think that was going to be part of your job? And is that something you're comfortable with? I mean, you and me kind of know each other, and we've done this a couple times. There's no audience here. So take this particular session out of the mix, but in general.
It's interesting because I come from, when you're a manager, well, the way I came up and the people that mentored me, it was never about me as the manager. It was always about the artist. You never wanted to have better press than your artist. And I think the same applies here. But the difference here is that it's such a competitive world, and I think it's important, and we as a company think it's important for people to hear our story, as opposed to just hearing one side of it. And so we've tried to make more of an effort over the past few years to do more interviews, be more out there. Our team trusts our executives to go out and represent the company. So I don't not like doing them, but it's not like my natural thing. I'd rather be on the phones or at in a meeting or at a show working.
So you mentioned Adam Weiser a minute ago as one of the up and stars. You guys moved to Nashville, and I love Adam. I've known him since, his New Jersey days. We were all booking the punk rock bands at the same time. We'd always trade data. I love Adam. Who else is a rising star at AEG that is coming up that people need to be paying attention to?
And you're gonna put me on the spot. I'm gonna get yelled at by everybody that I forget. Amy Buck is running our marketing with Rich Holton right now. She's incredible. Brittany DeLava, who kind of oversees all the buying for our rock stuff and some of our electronic stuff. She's you talk about development. She's been working with Sleep Token since very early days, and all of a sudden they're blowing out arenas, and so that's been an incredible story. Lindsay Dorman has been at the company for a while. She's now signing her own tours, and she and Alicia Carlin were both involved in the Sabrina Carpenter tours of last year and this coming year. Cody Lazier, Michael Harrison, they're not necessarily young, but they're doing great as promoters. Dan Clef is one of our rising ticketing stars. I mean, we have so many people. I can name all of them, to be honest, because I think everyone really is humming right now and working in real unison. And I don't want to say too many names because I don't want anybody to steal them, but they're doing great, and the team is we've made some changes over the past couple of years, and I think the team's just better than ever. And I I don't know that there is anybody that's not a rising star on our team.
Clearly, you have the confidence right now in your team. That's great. It seems like you're smiling a lot in this interview. It
We
seems like
have
you're in a
to. I
really
mean,
good place.
we are, and like again, it's taken a minute to build it to that, but we are in a good place. It's really fun right now.
Yeah, and you guys continue to invest in venues, which you guys have just opened in Nashville is next level cool. And obviously, Donnie and Brent pushing the levels in Colorado and the cool venues with the Mission.
Well, Brent's done a great job since he stepped in to that seat. Pinnacle was he helped bring it to the finish line, and it's been so well received in Nashville and much needed in Nashville, I think.
It seems like it's a new day in concert promoting, and AEG seems like we've got a lot of exciting things going on.
We've taken years to build this. Gary really did an incredible job building the touring division, and it's really my job now to kind of maintain and continue to grow it steadily. But when you think about where we started 7 years ago, 8 years ago, there wasn't really, as you said earlier, there wasn't really a touring division. It was just like a bunch of people doing different tours. But it finally feels like it's running in sync. We're working really well within all divisions of the company, festivals and regional offices and international, all really working in sync. It's taken a while to get there, to be honest. So it feels really good.
Before I let you go, I know that you are a constant studier and always traveling. So any books that you can suggest to the listeners that you would say or you had something to do with your success or a good footprint into development?
Oh, wow, man. I would say obviously Bill Graham's autobiography is great. I also I used to love, and I still do like this, just the history of the business. So, you have books like Hitmen and, about the old school record industry. And I will say recently I read Bob Iger's book. I think Bob Iger is like one of the best executives that's ever, been around, and
Disney.
And his book is really interesting. And it kind of really, I remember one thing I really took away from it was just, he was talking about just how he made deals and also just his focus on international and global, and obviously Disney is pretty, as big internationally as it is and domestically. So I listen to a lot of his podcasts and a lot of stuff that he's on. But I try to consume a lot, and people send me things, and I always love hearing and listening to new people. I also just recently reread How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie from like the 1930s. You would think doesn't hold up, but man, it holds up. It could apply to our business every day. So,
do you read the hard book or do you listen to the audiobooks?
I don't read a lot, but when I do, I read the book.
Impressive.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, but when we go on vacations, my wife tries to force me to put my phone down. So I have to do something. I can't just sit around and do nothing. I lose my mind. So I'll read on vacations or on that. There's so much to learn. I mean, I think that's what's fun right now is like as well as we're doing, there's so much more to learn every day. And when you work with smart people internally and externally, it's exciting because you just never know what you're going to get every day. And I feel fortunate to work with some of the people that I work with.
Speaking of which, I saw a social media post from Lee Anderson, and you guys were walking down a street, I'm guessing in New York, but it looked like a scene straight out of the Entourage, like demo reel.
Well, so we were walking, we all had dinner before the awards, actually, and I was with Lee and Kylie and Matt Runner and a few other Wasserman folks, and we ran into Jordan Zachary. Jordan actually said, Jordan's went through the video, he said it made him feel like Reservoir Dogs, but Lee and I have been friends for a long time. Sam Hunt and I have been friends for, a lot of these guys, from when I was a manager, we all worked really close together, and there's a business side to this business, but there's also a friendship side to the business, and there's a relationship side to the business. And, I think we all get wrapped up in the business and the hustle and the competition, but I really feel that it's important to stop and like look at the human side of this sometimes and make sure everybody's okay and really check in with your friends. And sometimes it's okay to not talk about business at dinner or on the phone, sometimes it's okay to make fun of each other's sports teams or make fun of each other's, whatever. So I think it's Lee and a lot of the Wasserman team are like, we've known each other for a long time. We've hung out, and I think sometimes it's nice to just get a break from like the craziness of a day and go laugh with your friends.
Not a bad place to wrap, and a good message right there. Well, I can't thank you enough for, I guess this is our third interview. This is
yeah, our unofficial third.
It's great. Congratulations on Bill Graham. That's quite the achievement in this biz, and the fact that you've done it in record time is really impressive. I'm got to imagine that that's got to be the quickest from start to finish becoming a promoter to winning that award that's ever happened in our industry.
take your word for it. Again, when you're up there, and I prepared some words because who the fuck knows, I don't want to be unprepared, but there's so many people that are responsible for someone like me or anyone winning that award. I can't stress enough that this is not an individualistic business. It's like, if you really want to win, you gotta buy into the team, or else you're just gonna fail.
No failing right now at AEG. Congratulations, Rich. Thank you so much for making
Yeah,
time.
thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys. Welcome back. Hope I don't drive your ratings down too far.
Promoter 101 with Rich Schaefer.
We should note that Rich does a lot to give back, and he just announced the 4th annual Unplugged and Uncorked, an evening to benefit and heal with the power of music. Proceeds support musicians on call. It's October 8th in NYC. Zingfield Ballroom. Unplugged and Uncorked. Doing some good things for a good reason. Go drink some wine, listen to some music, and hang out with Rich Schaefer.
They thought they wanted careers. Turns out they just wanted paychecks. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
Our first war story of the newly rebooted Promoter 101 comes to us from ATG Entertainment's Director of Programming from San Antonio, Mr. Kevin Couch.
Want to welcome Kevin from ATG Entertainment to the podcast, Texas' own Venue King, joining us for his very own war story, our first war story back from the reboot. Kevin, welcome to Promoter 101.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
So you've got a story for us?
I got a story. I got to switch hats from my day job back to days of being a manager with the group Color Me Bad.
Bring it.
So in a previous life, I initially was a touring drummer in a band that had a record deal, and we had to go renegotiate with the record company in Nashville. So I made my way, go meet with my attorney about my business. And in the next room is Brian, one of the singers of Color Me Bad. In 2018, there was a pretty famous moment that happened where one of the members shoved the other member on the stage, and it was all over TMZ, and they didn't have a manager. They had a pretty bad experience with management and all the things that went with that. And so we were just kind of riffing and hanging out and talking. And, I think it's important to mention, if you remember, Color Me Bad was 4 guys. The 4th guy never rejoined with the group in 2012 or 2010, when they reestablished and started playing shows again. So the 4 were 3. The 3rd member had some issues with the group and wound up settling out of court. Again, more drama that I wasn't involved with, but we were just riffing, and I was just getting their war stories, actually. And so one thing that did become pretty obvious to me, though, because it was such a famous moment with the shove incident, is that Brian did have an addiction issue. I wasn't even under contract with Color Me Bad yet as their official manager yet. And this is about time frame of April 2019. The addiction thing did become something that I felt like we had to deal with in a good way, like in a healthy way, for the group to redefine their legacy. So through that and through some connections and friends, we wound up having the opportunity to go out to Dr. Phil, which is crazy to think about. Like, first off, I was 7 years old when this band had their first #1 hit in 1991. Now, fast forward to 2019, I'm helping this band reestablish themselves in the market, reestablish their legacy and their story. And we're going to go on and we're going to have some real meaningful conversation with Dr. Phil. And we're going to see this thing really get handled in a healthy way. The first time I ever talked to Mark Calderon, who's now the sole owner of the group, was whenever Dr. Phil's producer was like, hey, you need to make sure Mark is on board, because it takes everyone to be on board to get Brian the help he needs. That was really the impetus to go out there and do it. I've been around music my entire career, but I didn't really think I was going to get into the weeds of the drama. But that's what you do as a manager. You get dirty with the artist, and you got to help them rise above and ultimately get their business in order, right? And so the Dr. Phil show happened, and it actually was really positive. Brian did go in, Mark went and participated on the show. Brian's wife participated. It was a really, really healthy, awesome conversation.
Phil really help, or was it vanity, or did he actually do the job?
Dude, Phil actually cares. You could tell that he wanted to help Brian get over this and seek the help he needed to do it. And then on top of that, Dr. Phil was like, hey, not only do I want to help you, your wife is here, Mark from your band is here, everyone wants to help you. And I gotta say, I mean, it was a very authentic, like, yeah, I was a little skeptical going into it because it's a freaking daytime TV show. But
Yeah, but you got to figure this is special, right? Because how many times do you think Dr. Phil got down with his wife to "I want to sex you up"? Like, this has got to be personal for him. He wanted to pay that forward.
That's right. He may, Dr. Phil may be singing "I Adore Mia More" to his wife at home. I don't know. And then ultimately, Brian went into rehab. It wasn't like Dr. Phil like solved every problem of the band, right? There were some other issues. Brian and Mark wound up embattled in this lawsuit that ultimately Brian wound up settling, and he's no longer on the road. But it was a crazy time, man. So after all the drama post the Dr. Phil show and the lawsuits, I'm kind of left with Mark. He's the sole owner of the band. And, after that, I mean, the band went to Indonesia. I mean, they've continued to play on the Isle of the 90s tour. Just for kicks and grins, I'll play drums every now and then for them.
You guys get back on track. They're doing real business on I Love the 90s, and you're still involved? What a crazy ride for a side hustle to your venue gig.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, it was just one of those deals. Like, I was like, man, I love these guys.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for this amazing war story. Our first one back, part of the reboot here on Promoter 101.
That makes me want to listen to the entire back catalog of Color Me Bad, Dan.
That it does.
It's pretty obvious they never really grew up. They only learned how to act in public. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
Quote of the month comes to us today from Mr. Muhammad Ali. Don't count the days, make the days count. Profound, Luke. Profound.
Guy knew how to throw a punch, Dan.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Your excuse to turn up the volume and drown out Karen from accounting. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
That's all she wrote, boys. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 231 of Promoter 101. If you liked what you heard or you didn't like what you heard, drop us a note. You can hit us at steiny@promoter101.net. Or if you just miss us and you want to catch up.
We'll be back June 26th, the last Thursday of every month. We're looking forward to talking to you then.
Our May episode will feature Sembla's Ollie Rosenblatt.
All right, baby.
Show me love. Show me love, baby.
Show me love. Show me love.
If you don't know much about international booking, Ollie is a great place to start learning your international fare. What a great guy. Love me some Ollie Rosenblatt.
Me too. In the meantime, we're wishing you sold out shows for the month to come.
Cheers.
Call your mother.
Visit the buffet called Promoter 101.